Many classic country recordings and live performances feature a full band with bass, drums, and all the bells and whistles like pedal steel and electric guitars. But in their essence, most country songs are built on the foundation of an acoustic guitar strumming basic chords to accompany a singer. And that means that you can play country music completely by yourself if you learn to master some very basic tools that we're going to explore in this chapter. So in this first tutorial, we're going to focus on the right hand work and bit by bit work our way up to a simple and super useful country strumming pattern that you can use to play literally hundreds of country songs. So let's get started. Anytime you want to learn to play a certain style of music, it's extremely important to remember that at least 90% of the sound comes down to how you play and what you play, not which guitar you play it on or which amp or pedals you run it through. Because using the right gear and tone can be great down the line, but when you're first starting out, there's so much to be learned that you really shouldn't worry about those last 10% at best until you've gotten all the basic skills down. Because you can always learn all the material on any instrument, and then you can always upgrade or change it down the line. So make sure to always keep that in mind every time we're talking about gear and tone in these tutorials. For this tutorial, you just need a pick and a guitar. And that could be a steel string acoustic like the one I'll be using today, which is going to get you the most authentic country sound. But it could also be a classical guitar with nylon strings, or even an electric guitar with a clean tone. Because again, you can learn all the material on any guitar and then you can always upgrade or change it down the line. And when it comes time to upgrade, there are companies that make great steel string acoustics for just a couple $100. Apart from that, I'm going to be using a device called a metronome, which is just a little machine that provides a ticking sound and a steady rhythm. And although I know that sounds somewhat uninspiring, it is an incredibly valuable tool to have. You can find them online for free or buy one for as little as $20. In this lesson, we're going to start out with the most simple version of a basic country strumming pattern, and we'll apply it to just one chord. Check it out. So before we start looking at our right hand, let's find our open E chord down here in the open position. We have the open E string, ringing open. And your second finger is in the second fret of the A string. Your third finger is in the second fret of the D string. Your first finger is in the first fret of the G string. And finally, the B and E string are ringing open. Now you want to pick the strings one at a time like that and make sure all 6 strings are ringing. And if they aren't, it's probably because one of your left-hand fingers is accidentally muting an adjacent string, like this. So here it's my third finger that's accidentally hitting the G string, so then you're just going to straighten it out and make sure they're all ringing. So that's the chord we're going to be using for this whole tutorial. Now before we start looking at our right hand, let's talk about the basic unit of time and rhythm we'll be using. And this unit is called a bar. And in this context, 1 bar equals 4 counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is a bar. And then that loops 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now in our right hand here, at first we're going to do 1 strum per count. We're going to go down towards the floor, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the most basic version of a country strumming pattern. And of course that gets a little bit repetitive to listen to, but it is the best place to start for this pattern. And again, you want to make sure that all 6 strings are ringing every time you grab this chord. And if this happens to be really easy for you, just focus on fully locking in rhythmically with the drums and the bass, which is always challenging. And now let's play through this example extra slowly with a metronome so you can play along and practice it. And now it's time to check out what that sounds like up to speed with our backing track. Here it goes. Now that we've explored the most basic version of our country strumming pattern, let's take it one step further. Check it out. So once again, we have our full E chord here in the left hand. And it's important for me to keep stressing that you have to keep making sure all 6 strings are ringing. Now in the previous lesson, we did 1 strum per count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you stop playing and just listen to the bass and the drums, you'll notice that beats 1 and 3 feel very heavy. And that's where the bass note and the bass drum typically land. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are called the downbeats. And in that same way, you may also notice that beats 2 and 4 feel light. And that's where the snare drum typically lands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And those are called backbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now let's try to emphasize the backbeats, or beats 2 and 4, in our basic strumming pattern. So hit 1 and 3 softly, and 2 and 4 a little harder. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, you want to make sure to keep the rhythm steady while you do this and focus on locking in with the drums and the bass. And now let's practice this example extra slowly with the metronome so you can play along and get comfortable with it. And now it's time to check out what that sounds like up to speed with a backing track. Here it goes. So now that you're able to strum the 4 beats of the bar while accenting the backbeats, let's take it one step further by adding an upstroke to the mix. So we still have our full open E chord down here in the open position, and as always, you want to double check that you have all 6 strings ringing. So far we have our 4 strums with the emphasis on beats 2 and 4, or the backbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you look at the right hand, you can see that all of this is played with down strums, right down towards the floor. And in between all those, our right hand goes up without hitting the strings. So now right after beats 2 and 4, or right after each backbeat, let's hit the strings on the way up, like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. Your hand was going up anyway, but now we just hit the strings with our pick. And now you can really hear how it starts to sound like country. Now these upstrokes in between the 4 counts are called eighth notes, because there are 2 of them per quarter note, which of course equals 8 of these subdivisions per bar. And when we count them out, we say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if you were to verbalize the rhythm we're using for this pattern now, it would be 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. And again, you want to make sure to keep the rhythm steady and stay tight and locked in with the drums and the rest of the band. And now let's practice this example extra slowly with the metronome. And now let's check out what that sounds like up to speed with the backing track. So now that we've worked our way up to the full basic country strumming pattern, we'll speed it up a bit. So once again, our full strumming pattern was like this. But many country songs are a lot faster than that, so it's really important for you to also be comfortable with this pattern at faster tempos. And when you speed it up, it's important to keep counting and stay with the drums. So don't just start drifting all over the place. Just because it's fast, just still keep going. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. And listen to the drums and the bass so you stay nice and locked in with it all. It's also very important that you keep your wrist loose and don't start tensing up in your arms and your back, which is something that's unfortunately surprisingly easy to end up doing when you push yourself. It has to be relaxed so that you don't hurt yourself, but also so that it sounds relaxed. Notice the difference in my wrist. As opposed to. I'm keeping my wrist loose and relaxed. And later on in this tutorial, we're going to talk about how you can gradually work up the tempo of these patterns. But for now, just focus on keeping the rhythm steady and your body relaxed. And before we play this faster version of the strumming pattern at full speed with the backing track, let's run it a couple times at a medium tempo with our metronome. And now let's check out what that sounds like at full speed with the backing track. Here goes. Now that you've hopefully gotten somewhat comfortable with the basic country strumming pattern at different tempos, let's try and use it in a simple practice tune. So first let's break down the different sections. So even for this practice tune, we're just going to stick to our basic open E chord. Now for the first section, let's call it the A section. We'll start out by just playing full strums and letting each of the chords ring for 2 bars. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 2, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 4, and 2, 2, and 3, and 4. Do that 4 times. 2, 3, and 4. So it's a total of 8 bars. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You could do a slow strum for extra dramatic effect like this, as opposed to 2, 3, and 4, 2, 2, and 3. And you can also experiment with strumming over the neck, 3 verses back by the bridge. Very different sounds. You can also do upstrokes if you're up for it. 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 2, 3, and 4. So once again, we're going to strum those chords 4 times. And since we let each of them ring for 2 bars, that totals 8 bars. Then after those 8 bars, we're going to go to the next section, which we'll call the B section. And for that, we're going to use our basic country strumming pattern for 8 bars. 5 bars, 6 bars, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8. Now the challenge with that is to come right in and immediately lock in with the groove. Because a lot of players will stumble rhythmically the first couple of bars until they find the groove, but the faster you can lock into the rhythm, the better it'll sound. And one trick you can use for that is to keep counting in your head while you play the long chords. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 3, 4, 2, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Because that way your internal rhythm keeps ticking, even though you're playing something very slow. And then once you pick up the strumming pattern, you'll get into the groove faster. So after that B section, we'll go back and repeat the A section. Then finally we repeat the B section again, and after that we end the practice tune on the big E chord that we'll let ring. So basically each section happens twice, and then we end the practice tune. And now let's run the whole practice tune at a slower tempo with our metronome. And now let's check out what that whole practice tune sounds like at full speed with a backing track. One of the trickiest things about learning and teaching guitar is that everyone progresses differently. Certain things come naturally and effortlessly for some, while other things are much harder. And those things are different for every student. So it's really important to have a way to work on the things that may be causing trouble for you within this course. And one of the greatest tools we have available for that is our metronome. And once again, all that does is providing a steady rhythm that you can adjust and use in a million different ways. In this lesson, I'll show you some simple ways to work on your strumming technique with a metronome. So let's, for example, say that your right hand keeps getting confused within the pattern. Then the first thing you want to do is isolate the problem so that you're not trying to work on everything all at once. And a good way to do that when it comes to right hand work is to just lay your fingers across all 6 strings without pressing down so that you get this muted sound. Do it anywhere as long as the strings aren't ringing. So once you have that covered, you don't have to worry about the left hand at all, and you can hone in on your right hand. And you want to set the metronome at a comfortable tempo. And our first examples were at 100 beats per minute, so if that was too hard, you want to start way below that. Basically any tempo that's comfortable for you. It could be 60 beats per minute, for example. There's 60 beats per minute right here. And then you can just work on the mechanics of it. Don't think of it as making music, just purely mechanics, and make sure to keep your focus on the right hand. So here we have count out with the metronome. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and then get your wrist moving down with each of the clicks, 2 for each of the count. And let's piece it together. 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 but it may be a slower or a faster tempo that's comfortable for you. And the idea is to ultimately be able to do all this without thinking about it, and this is the best way to get there. Then the next step is to gradually increase the tempo of the metronome. And ideally you start at a comfortable tempo like that, and then after a while you increase the tempo by 2 beats per minute. So now it's a 62 beats per minute instead of 60. It's a subtle difference, but it's there. 2, 3, 4. Do that for a couple minutes and then go back down 1 beat per minute. So back down to 61 now. 3. We're still faster than where we started, but it's slower than where we just were. After doing that for a while, you go back up 2, down 1, up 2, down 1, and so on. It's a slow process, but it's the best way to comfortably build speed. But of course, if that's too slow for you, you can take that same 2 steps forward, 1 step back approach, but with higher increments. But you always have to be careful not to push yourself too fast, because you may end up developing bad habits that then take a ton of work to get rid of again. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and that you feel like you've gotten a good grip of our basic country strumming pattern. Because again, strumming on an acoustic guitar is the backbone of country music, and if you get good at that, it could take you incredibly far. Because this style of music is all about the singer and the story he or she is telling, and an acoustic guitar is the perfect basic accompaniment for that. Everything else that happens in the rest of the band is merely ornamentation. Have fun with it.